This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Let's talk with Mike Irwin from Pig Trail Nation here on Halftime. Mike, good afternoon. How are you on game week?
Doing good. Just working in the studio today.
12. We've already had breaking news today, and it had nothing to do with the depth chart. 12 noon kickoff on Saturday. And I see a lot of people on Twitter saying, well, if you're really worried about the heat, you're going to move the game tonight. But then Sam Pittman has already said, we don't want our kids getting back at 2, 3 in the morning. So they've moved the game to 12 noon. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I guess he didn't say this, but I'm assuming he's thinking, okay, we might have this game well in hand by halftime, and I can start substituting by the time it gets really hot. Just have these guys work for a half if it works out that way. It may not. He also made a statement about being better for the fans on tailgating. You know, they're out there earlier. They tailgate before it gets hot. So, that's not a decision I have to make. It sounds good to me. I don't know. I don't know what else you would do except move it tonight. I mean, that's probably what I would have done, but.
Mike, any surprises? Have you seen the 2 deep yet? Any surprises in that 2 deep?
Not really. I was really asking myself about Centennial, whether he would be in the starting 3 rotation at wide receiver. It wasn't clear that he was. I think most of us felt like that Armstrong and Tesla would be the 2, and then who would that third receiver be? So he's got experience. They're expecting a lot out of him this year, so that makes sense. Paul is listed as an or at middle linebacker, and I think that's due to the fact that he's been out. He's got this mild sprain or knee sprain. It's not serious, but it wouldn't shock me if he didn't play. Anytime you're messing around with the knee, even if it's a sprain, if you don't feel like you have to have a guy, you'd rather him being completely healthy before you put him out there and put pressure on that tendon again. So those are the only 2 things I'm looking at. You've got 3 starters in the secondary that are all new. They're all transfers. A couple of Baylor transfers. So that'll be interesting to see. 3 of the 5 are newcomers. So other than that, it looks pretty normal to me.
9 of 21 players on the defense are out of the transfer portal, Mike.
Yeah.
And that's you knew you'd see a lot of them just because of the flat numbers on the defense that came in. But this is the story of the college football season. You know, aside from who wins and loses and all of that, it's the effect of the transfer portal on these teams and some of the numbers that you see around here. I mean, what are we going to see? Like 15 transfers that are going to get a lot of playing time for this team, and that's even on the low side for some other programs this year.
Yeah, and it reflects the new coaching staff on the defensive side, the new coordinator and the co-coordinator, and what their plans are. You know, they're putting their stamp on this bunch early, and what they're really saying is this is going to be different. So we're going to put new players out here, players that weren't a part of what went on last year, because especially in the secondary, they had one of the worst secondaries statistically in the country. So, they're kind of starting fresh with a new idea. We'll see how it goes. He did give a little bit of a scouting report on Western Carolina, and I thought it was interesting that they set a school record last year in passing, averaged over 300 yards passing a game, but that quarterback is gone and their top receiver is gone. The new quarterback, I presume he'll be the quarterback, is a transfer from Harvard, and they had their second scrimmage last week. He was 16 of 27 for 239 yards and 2 touchdowns, but their head coach says the big difference in that scrimmage was the defense. The defense won the day, and he said that's what we will hang our hats on this year. If you go back and look at last year, they were 6-5. They got beat 49-6 by Mercer. I think Georgia Tech was the only Power 5 team they played. They lost that game 35-17. So what I think is interesting about this is you've got a team coming in here touting an improved defense going up against a team that's going to have a new offense under a new offensive coordinator. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Mike, I do want to ask you an NFL question. I saw that the Cowboys, the Cowboys are pretty popular around here, these parts. But what are your thoughts on them with the trading when you got Dak there, trading for a guy like Trey Lance?
Well, we'll see how it works out. I'm not a big Jerry Jones fan. I mean, I'm a huge Dallas Cowboys fan. But I've been saying for years, sell the team, Jerry. Sell the team. You don't know what you're doing. He's great at raising money, and, it's the most valuable franchise in the NFL. He's got a great facility and all that. It just seems like every time they do these trades, they just don't work out. Hopefully this will, but, if you look at Dallas's history, I mean, they'll get in the playoffs, but then what happens, It's just those of us that grew up watching the Cowboys, this is not what we expect, I mean, I go back to the days of Bullet Bob Hayes, and, that's how far back. I mean, 1962, 3 right in there. And I was used to a certain level of success, and you had it those first couple of years under Jimmy Johnson, and then it's just vanished. I mean, this is not the Dallas Cowboys to me.
I do like the Cowboys' defense. I think they're a Super Bowl winning defense. I don't know if Dak's the guy, but I'm with you. I'm excited to see how it all unfolds.
I think that this trade just sort of brought some drama to it.
At least they're talking about the Cowboys, right?
Because they're talking about it now, but what happens when Dak has his first bad game?
Had his worst year last year.
You know what this is like.
Was hurt, yeah.
It's hilarious, too, though, Mike, because Cowboys haven't drafted a quarterback in the first round since Troy Aikman, and yet now they're getting – I don't even know what they gave the Niners for him, but I just can't even fathom that Trey Lance was picked as early as he was picked and that the Niners wasted all that they did to get him, and yet they're still potentially the class of the NFC.
Yeah, it's very odd. I'm not a big Dak fan, too, either, though. I mean, some people say, well, you're mad at him because he beat Arkansas. Well, that has nothing to do with it, To me, they paid this guy just an insane amount of money. I mean, you'd think this was Tom Brady we're talking about here. So are you going to get those kind of results from him? I don't see it. I'd like to see him gone. I would. Just bye-bye, go away. Jerry, go away. Let your son run the team. You need to retire. Come back here to Arkansas and help raise money. Go to Razorback games. Stay away from the Cowboys.
You see the college football playoff committee is going to meet Wednesday. You think they're going to have to change how you get into the playoff for next year? Because there isn't going to be a Power 5. You're not going to have 10 conferences. Right. You're going to have 9. And Notre Dame as the 10th conference, essentially. So I imagine that things will change a little bit. But it's interesting when you look at the makeup of the conferences and the teams that are in that are amongst the, what'll essentially be the Power 4. More than half of them are SEC or Big Ten schools once you get to next year. Do you think that you ought to have automatic qualifiers? You win the Big Ten championship game, you win the SEC championship game, you get in? Or I just have a feeling that any team that makes it to those championship games will be in the top 12 anyway. The growth of these leagues, you're not going to have divisions, but the two teams that are there finished first and second. So they're already going to be teams that are going to make the top 12.
Sure. Well, generally speaking, I'm against anything that involves voting. I'd love to see some sort of a system like it is in high school. You don't get voted to be in the championship game. You have a playoff system, and you get in by finishing first or second or third in your conference or whatever. You can't, from a practical standpoint, do that with college football right now. But I agree with you. I mean, most of the time, whoever would end up getting voted into there is going to be there anyway. I just love the fact that they're expanding it. I've been so frustrated over the years. At first they had 2 teams. They picked 2 teams, and they did that for a long time, and then it was 4. And it's like they're punishing everybody. You got to wait if you want to have 8 or 12 or whatever. I mean, guys, I've said this so many times. I am a fan of the playoffs. I don't care what sport it is. Sports are about making the playoffs. That part of the year is the best part of the year. So expand it. Involve more people. Involve more teams. It makes your school you got people in schools that'll never be in the playoffs. I mean, there's no carrot in front of the noses of their fans. I mean, have more teams in. I'd love to see 32 teams in this thing. Reduce the regular season. Have more of it be the playoffs. I love playoffs. And I think the more playoff games you have, the more chances you have for upsets.
BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.